Welcome back, everyone. It's Eric from Eric Candy. Here today we're back on PTCGO, taking a look at yet again another Unbroken Bonds deck. And today we have the new Weezing that we're going to be exploring. So this is kind of a spread archetype, as you'll notice by the Weezings, the Kokos, a lot of counter cards, and other spreading shenanigans in here as well. And I do have to confess, this is actually a card I didn't think too much of originally. I don't know if you guys saw our Unbroken Bonds set review, but definitely go check that out if you have not already done so. But in it, I really wasn't too enthusiastic about this Weezing. I thought it was, kind of okay, but I was like, the damage output looks a little bit low. But the more games I get in with this, the more I've kind of grown to like this card, I do have to admit. So let's take a look at the deck and see how it's going to tick. Of course, we have Weezing. That's going to be the star of the show. 120 HP, Stage 1, Psychic type, 3 retreat cost, Psychic weakness, but has this ability, Detention Gas. As long as this Pokemon is your active, put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns, and then just 1 singular attack for a DCE does 40, and 20 to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that already have damage counters on them. So you guys can see kind of what they're going for here. We have the Tapu Kokos in here to flying flip a little bit, and then once they've kind of done that, we can come in with Weezings, and between this ability and this attack, we can do a lot of spread damage with this archetype here. So I really underestimated how quickly this type of damage added up with Detention Gas between turns. There's even some plays I didn't even think about when initially kind of looking at the card, like if your opponent knocks out a Weezing and then you promote a Weezing between turns, you still get the effect of Detention Gas. There's some cool interactions like that I didn't really think about, where you can sometimes cheese some extra damage counters into play. But yeah, this card is, I think, actually pretty decent here. But of course, like I said, we are playing a bunch of Tapu Koko as well. So Tapu Koko, you guys are probably plenty familiar with this. Flying flip 20 to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And it's also really nice because it has free retreat. And I do have to confess, guys, I actually don't really know if I want to play 4 of this card in this deck. I think I gravitated towards playing 4 just because I want to make sure we start with this. This is definitely our ideal starter in the deck for sure. But, honestly, after you flying flip like once or twice, you just kind of want to attack with Weezing for the rest of the game anyways. So I don't know, maybe you guys can cut a couple copies of this and just play some switching cards. I did have escape ropes in here at one point before cutting them, so maybe you guys can try something like that. But right now I'm basically just playing 4 Koko just to make sure we start it, not because we actually want to flying flip that often. So I don't know, just something to think about. Maybe play around with these counts if you guys decide to. But right now, like I said, we're going for the 4 just to make sure we can always start with this thing if possible. So those are kind of the main components of the deck, but we do have a number of different kind of support Pokemon to help us out in a couple different matchups. The first of which is going to be Larvitar. This is going to be primarily for our Zoroark matchup, just because Zoroark is, I think one of the more difficult matchups you'll run into with this thing, because once they evolve, they don't really have any basic Pokemon for Detention Gas to snipe. They resist Psychic. They play a bunch of Acerolas, so we definitely need some help in that matchup, and Second Strike is a really good attack. So if your opponent's active already has 3 or more damage counters, it does 10 plus 70 more. So, after a few flying flips, you can maybe get a Zoroark within range of a Second Strike and taking an easy KO that way. But of course, we can always use this on other things like Pikaroms, or maybe even the new Greninja Zoroark, just as a couple other examples. We also have 1 copy of Mr. Mime. This is going to be another card that's going to be really good for Zoroark matchups, but also really just any deck that plays Acerola. So it says your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on them, and any cards attached to this Pokemon can't be put into your opponent's hand. So like I said, really good at helping stop those Acerolas, or at the very least forcing your opponent to have something like an Alolan Muck if they want to be able to continue using them. We have 1 copy of the promo Tapu Lele, and specifically we are choosing to play the Psychic one. It is a very conscious decision here for this deck, just because we do play Mysterious Treasure, which means we can search this out a little bit more easily than the Fairy type one. So of course we're playing this for that magical swap ability, or attack I should say, but allows us to rearrange our opponent's damage counters in any way that we like. So really good if we have a bunch of damage counters spread out throughout their field, but we're not knocking out anything. We can use magical swap to knock out some of their key attackers and maybe leave them with nothing to follow up, or is sometimes just a good attack to clean up a game. Then from there we have 1 copy of the new Bench Barrier Mew. This is going to be kind of a reprint of some of the old Mr. Mimes that we've had, which that Bench Barrier ability. but it's going to stop bench damage done by attacks. And this is nice against a couple different things. I've actually run into a lot of mirror matches, believe it or not, on PTCGO with this deck. And bench barriers can be really, really nice in those situations. Also good against Pikarom to prevent them from like tag bolting 2 of your Weezings at the same time. Also good against things like Buzzle Pheromosa. So I'm not sure actually like how much I want this in the deck just yet or not. I think after we get like some major tournament results, once Unbroken Bonds is, you know, legal in the mix, we'll have a better idea if we need Mute in our decks or not. But for right now, I'm playing it just to have the insurance against some of these different decks, especially with how popular this deck has been on the ladder and on PTCGO. Mute has definitely come in handy a lot for me. And then from there, just one copy of Marshadow to round out our supporting cast of Pokemon. Of course, just for that Let Loose ability. So if we ever have a dead hand, we can just treasure for a Marshadow and hopefully bail ourselves out, or maybe even disrupt our opponent a little bit and put them with a 4-card hand. So looking at the rest of the deck, a lot of standard stuff here. 4 Nest Ball, 4 Treasure, pretty self-explanatory for this type of deck. 4 Cynthia, for Lily, 2 Guzma. We do have kind of a lower Guzma count here, but you do have to remember we are a spread deck, so we don't need physical like Guzmas most of the time just because we can do damage on the bench already. But even though we are playing the Guzmas, we do have 2 copies of Counter Catcher. This is another reason we're playing kind of a lower Guzma count. You know, if we are behind on prizes, we can just switch one of our opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. So we are typically going to be playing from behind with this deck since we're spreading, just kind of chipping away at our opponent. So more than likely we are going to fall behind in the early portions of the game here. We also have 4 copies of Pokegear. So this is a new card we got out of Unbroken Bonds. We get a look at the top 7 cards of our deck, reveal a supporter we find there, put it into our hand, and shuffle the other cards back into the deck. So if you'll notice, we're only playing 4 Cynthia, 4 Lily, no other draw supporters. And, you know, I was kind of thinking, I mean, Cynthia and Lily are basically the best supporters we have right now. Let's just make sure we can play those every game. That way we don't have to play other cards in this deck like Erica's or Bill's Analysis or, you know, whatever it might be. Any other, like, kind of suboptimal supporter you guys might think of. Now, if you guys do want, you can maybe cut a couple copies of these for some more physical supporters if you are paranoid about hitting them off Pokegear every time. But like I said, right now I'm just kind of going all in on our Cynthias and Lilies with this card. 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher just for some recovery. I do like kind of the thicker like 2 count as opposed to the 1 count in this deck. Figure we might need to get a Weezing or a Coughing back at one point. Then sometimes if our opponent knocks out like one of our like crucial tech Pokemon, sometimes the extra Stretcher can come in handy for those. And then from there, I believe the last item card we have is 4 copies of a Spell Tag card I'm really enjoying in this deck a lot. So it's a tool card, and whenever the Psychic Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. So between the Detention Gas, the Spell Tag, between Shrine of Punishment, which we have in this deck as well, we can actually kind of cheese some knockouts even between turns when we're not attacking, which is really, really nice. So Spell Tag, fantastic card in this deck. Also really good against a lot of non-GX decks, which I think makes this better than something like Choice Band otherwise would be in this type of deck. And then I believe the last trainer card, just 3 copies of Shrine of Punishment. Pretty self-explanatory, guys. Just another spread option that we have, but of course this is limited to just GXs and EXs. And then from there we just have some special energies to round out the list. 4 double colorless energy, 4 counter energy, and 2 triple acceleration energy. Generally speaking, I am liking this list and this energy count, but like I said, feel free to play around with some of those things I did point out. But anyways, guys, I'm going to quit rambling. Let's head over into some games, and we'll show off how this thing looks in action. Alrighty, guys, we have ourselves a game here. Opponent's just going to call the Coin Flip, which we're doing. Definitely always good with an evolution deck like this. Want to get those Coughings into play. You know, that way they can evolve as soon as possible. And ouch, this hand is not too great. Luckily, we do have the Pokegear. Hopefully that can bail us out of not having a supporter here. And okay, we get a Koko, so we can play a Nest Ball, then like a Weezing out of the deck. That way Pokegear can maybe find something a little bit better. We do have Marshadow in the deck too, so if we have our top deck like a Mysterious Treasure, we can maybe get one of those as well. And that is a yikes. So we're gonna click done. Oh, we probably should have gotten down the Spell Tag on the Coughing Yeah, that definitely would have been really good. So that's going to be an oops on my part there, guys. But yeah, this hand is not too great. Luckily, if zapped... Okay, and our opponent does play a March Shadow, they are going to bail us out of this hand. Thank God. But I was going to say is, you know, even if they do take a knockout in this Mew, we do have Koko plus counter energy, so we could start, like, putting on some degree of pressure. And nice, this hand is much better. So if our opponent can take a knockout, which usually happens pretty regularly with these Zapdos decks, we are going to be able to get this Weezing set up and ready to go. So we're going to see a Nest Ball come down. Let's see what they're going to get. We've only seen the Zapdos, so this could even be like Pikarom. But if it's a Jirachi, it might end up just being like normal Zapdos deck. And it is going to be a Pikarom, so this might be like the Lightning like toolbox type of deck that plays Pikarom, Zapdos, like a couple Jirachis, and it's basically like a big mashup of the two different Lightning archetypes. So I have to see which route they're going to go with this. Okay, so we do have Pokegear, let's see, and it is Lily. Kind of actually wouldn't have minded a Guzma here, that way we could have attacked with Weezing this turn. So here we can just get down... I think we just get down the counter energy, and we're just going to Lily. We don't really need too much else this turn. And we do hit Treasure, that's really good, so we can get rid of probably the Tapu Koko, that seems good to me. I want to keep that Lele, I want to keep Guzma, so we'll just go for the Coughing. And then with Mew, we can actually put 3 damage counters on our opponent's field. So just to start softening up this Pikarom potentially. So we could do that, or we could spread our damage around a little bit to activate the Tension Gas easier. But I think I just want to get as many damage counters as possible on this Pikarom, just because it is going to be a pretty tanky Pokemon. So let's see what our opponent is going to do this turn. They didn't have too much of an explosive turn 1. They're going to get down energy on Pikarom, so if we do see like a Zeraora Energy Switch Thunder Mountain, that could get them to like a full blitz this turn if they wanted to. So we're going to see another Pikarom come down. Okay. Order Pad, Tails. Okay, so I'm assuming this is going to be Pikarom and not like the Lightning Toolbox, because it looks like they're going all in on like the turbo factor of the Pikaroms. But unfortunately, Order Pad not working too good on that last one. I think this one just worked though. So I'll have to see what they're going to get here. Okay, we're going to get a Nest Ball, so maybe we'll see a Zeraora. That could be a good option for them. Or maybe a Jirachi if they play Jirachi as well. Okay, so they are going to go for the Zeraora. So maybe they do have like the Thunder Mountain. Okay, they have the Dene, so they're going to keep digging here, trying to, I'm sure, set up a full blitz this turn, if at all possible. So they will need Thunder Mountain plus Energy Switch if they do want a full blitz. Oh, okay, but they can actually just take a knockout with Zapdos, just with Electro Powers. That will get it up high enough to where they can just take a knockout. So you don't see Zapdos take a knockout that way too often, but every once in a while it does happen. So here we'll promote... Actually, well... Yeah, that was probably actually a mistake, because we should have promoted the Weezing. That way Detention Gas would have worked between turns. So that is a small little mistake. I apologize for some of my lackluster plays in this game, guys. But let's see. We have Guzma, so we could just go ahead and Guzma and try to like soften up something. So here we're gonna go for the Pikarom and just Spittering Spludge. So we're gonna get down, or bring up the Pikarom with no energy, just to like force some more awkward plays from our opponent if at all possible. So they're gonna need like double energy switch, like attachment, to get out of this, or like attachment, energy. Oh, but here they're just going to retreat into Zapdos. That's fine by me. So they're not taking a one-hit knockout, which means we're in good shape, basically. And we hit Shrine of Punishment. That's really awesome as well. So you're just trying to think, what do we do? Do we bench the Larvitar? We could even like put it down as bait. Like, honestly, I think we can probably win just off of this baby Lele. So I don't even mind them knocking out this Larvitar too much. So we're going to get down a double Colorless Energy. We have Nest Ball. Ooh, maybe it would have been better actually just to save the Nest Ball for Lele next turn. Because I actually think after this turn and Shrine and Detention Gas, we actually will have enough damage in play to just take a knockout with Lele. So I think that would have been a little bit better. So this is a warm-up game. I apologize, guys. Normally we're not going to play this bad. But yeah, I mean, even if we don't get Lele, I still don't see how we lose in this match. But you can see like how good Weezing is against a lot of these big basic decks. So here they are going to bring up the Larvitar. Fine by me. We really don't even need Larvitar. We honestly, I think, can win without Lele as well. We can just keep spreading if we really want to. But here, we're just going to promote the Weezing. That's fine. So we could have promoted the Koko and just, like, try to get Lele that way, but... Or do we even have enough damage? Enough damage counters in play? Let's double check really quick. So we got 120 there. So we need, what, 380 to... Or 480 to knock out both Peak ROMs. So we have 130, 120, that's 250, 330, what, 390. Yeah, so we actually should be good. So we'll get down to Lele a little bit preemptively, and we're going to try to hit Guzma off this Poke. Oh, but they just concede after seeing the Lele. That's fine. But like I said, guys, even if we didn't bench it, I think we could just win literally just by spreading with Weezing the rest of the game. So you can really see how good Weezing is against a lot of these big basic decks, like I said. We are going to try our hand at another game, though. And we are going to take a mulligan, which is a little bit annoying, though. And, okay. So we have a couple Coughings. We have Mew. We'll get down the 2 Coughings at the least and just kind of leave it at that. That'll be okay. And our opponent is going to mulligan as well. And they are playing a Weezing deck, okay? So we have kind of a mirror match here. That's interesting. So kind of in my experience with the mirror match after just playing like a couple of these matchups on PTCGO, in my experience, whoever takes the first KO normally wins. That's usually been my experience with this. Granted, there's a bunch of different factors here. If they play their own Mew, that could change things as well. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get the Mew down. And okay, so we have Spell Tag, we have Treasure, Nest Ball. So what do we do? So I guess we can Treasure, get rid of the Nest Ball. And do we have Marshadow? We do not. So I'll just grab a Weezing, that's fine. And we're just going to Pokegear. And we hit Lily, so that's really good. So I'm just going to play the Lily. We could Treasure for another Weezing, but we really don't need to. So we're going to get down Shrine, that way they can't put their own Shrine down. And we're just going to get down some Spell Tags and pass. You know, if they do play Blower, that could be bad for us, but right now too many people aren't playing Blower in decks that don't involve like Green's Exploration or like Zoroark, so I think we're actually pretty safe putting down the Spell Tags here. So our opponent's going to get down a Spell Tag of their own, okay? And we're just going to see a Cynthia. So no doubt they're going to be looking for at least one more Coughing and Mew if they do have one as well. So they're going to play a Rangaroo. Interesting, okay? Haven't seen many of these decks play a Rangaroo online yet. So we are going to see a Mysterious Treasure. Probably, like I said, for another Coughing. Just in case this active one does get knocked out. And, okay, they're actually going to go for Let Loose, which is kind of annoying because I liked their hand there. We had 2 Weezings. We had Cynthia ready to go. And, okay, I mean, this is a workable hand. So we have Weezing, Triple Acceleration, Pokegear. Even if we whiff the Pokegear, it's not the end of the world. And, okay, we get Guzma. That's kind of okay, I suppose. So here we'll just we'll evolve the active. And, oh, you know what we should do, guys? Should have evolved the bench, because we actually could just Guzma that one and take a knockout on that, since it doesn't have a spell tag. That'd actually be a bit better. I mean, we can still kind of like course correct here and play Nest Ball to get a Koko, which will give us the free retreat. So we're still making it happen, just playing a little bit sloppy in these games, guys. So we're still gonna get the knockout. I mean, having Koko in play really isn't terrible either, though. Especially with kind of a dead hand like this, it's kind of nice to have a free retreat we can promote. So it's really not the end of the world. So we are going to take a knockout. Unfortunately, we did not get a supporter, but the Pokegear might be a supporter. We'll have to see what we can get off of it next turn. So our opponent is going to Cynthia. So yet again, I'm sure they're going to be looking for another Coughing, and they do find Weezing. Okay. very annoying for us, and they find a double colorless energy to go with it, so that's a feels bad. Luckily we do have our Mew, so that is going to shut down their own spread damage. Now we will still take damage with Detention Gas on Mew and Koko here, and Coughing since it's unevolved, but we are going to stop a little bit of damage as well. Okay, so we're going to have to Pokegear, and we do get Cynthia. So unfortunately, we are ahead on prizes here, so Counter Energy isn't going to work. So let's see. And that's a feels bad. No energy. So at the very least, I wouldn't mind evolving this Coughing that way. That way it doesn't take any more Detention Gas damage. So we're going to get rid of a Tapu Koko. Just evolve into Weezing, and yeah, we're probably just going to have to see a pass after that. I mean, luckily, when you whip energy with this deck, you still have Detention Gas, so you're still getting damage in play. Unfortunately, just not quite as much as I would like to. It would have been nice to smack that Weezing for 80 and start to soften it up a bit. So the good news for us, though, if our opponent does take a knockout, we can use Spell Tag and get some extra damage counters on the field that way. So that is something cool with Weezing on these turns that you whiff. Like I said, you still have like other ways to do damage with this thing. So your opponent is having no trouble finding energies of their own, and they are going to knock out the Weezing, but here we're going to get some damage down on this bench Coughing here. And now we can promote this Weezing, and in between turns, Detention Gas will actually knock out that bench Coughing as well. Alrighty, so let's see. Still no energy. Well, I mean, we have counter energy, so that's a lie. Here we're going to play the Nest Ball, get down another Coughing, and then just Cynthia, try to find another triple acceleration or double colorless energy. And nice, we do find the DC. That's really, really good here. And just trying to think, what do we do? So we could put down the triple acceleration, and then if Weezing gets knocked out somehow next turn, we have double colorless energy for a Koko. But here I'm just going to play, assuming our opponent doesn't have an energy to, or a way to knock us out. So here we are going to take a knockout on this Marshadow as well. So this is nice, we are pulling ahead, but the big downside to this is that basically half of our energies are going to be dead cards here in this matchup. So I feel kind of decent about the state of this game. So we're in kind of, oh, our opponent does get down a Tapu Lele. That is definitely going to be a potentially scary card. So we're going to see a Lily from our opponent. And no doubt they're going to want to find another Coughing. That's the one thing they really, really want this turn, because I'm threatening a knockout on their only Weezing, and that could be pretty bad potentially. And ouch, so they are going to get a Spell Tag down on that Lele as well. Alright, so we're in kind of like a sketchy spot now, because if we... So yeah, I guess we can get the Weezing back. I'm just kind of worried about this Lele, because if we take a knockout in this Weezing, I'm pretty sure they're going to have enough damage counters on their field to like knock out all of our Weezing. So maybe we go for another Coughing here, or we go for Weezing and Guzma up the Lele and just like smack that and force our opponent to have like the counter energy that turn. So just trying to think what route we're going to go here. So I guess we can do... We could attach the triple acceleration, but I think we can just hang on to it and use the current Weezing that we have. I don't know which way is really better, just because I'm kind of anticipating whatever Weezing we attack with will get knocked out. That's why I'm like, well, we could just like throw the triple acceleration on it, since it will probably be knocked out anyways. Rather keep the DCE in play a little bit longer. But here, yeah, I guess we'll throw down the Spell Tag. We'll see what happens. And here gets him really struggling. But here we're going to go for the Lele. I think this is going to be kind of a threat. I'm really not too worried about leaving this Weezing because if we ever do get knocked out by it, we have Spell Tag to pick it off in between turns as well. So here I'm just debating who we want to promote, but you know what? We're going to promote this guy. And let's see, does our opponent have the counter energy? That would be pretty bad for us, actually. But at the same time, even if they do, like, all we need is a DCU on Koko. We can actually wipe out their whole board, so... Because right now they need 30 on our active... Let's see... So they could do that. Actually, they wouldn't have enough damage counters in play to knock out both of our Weezing, so yeah. I'm glad we did this as opposed to knocking out the Weezing, because then they would have had 4 more damage counters to potentially play with, so definitely like this. Also, too, attacking the Lele means Detention Gas wouldn't work in between turns, which is kind of cool. So here, our opponent is going to go for a Treasure. Ooh, and just a fail. That is a little bit unfortunate for them. And they do have the counter energy, so glad I did not knock out this Weezing. And here we're going to see an Instruct. And we're going to see a Marshadow as well, and I'm okay with that. Alright, so we're going to see a Let Loose here. Our hand was okay, but there's not really too much we need right now other than energy. Just not that energy, so maybe I would have preferred to hang on to my other hand. But right now, I'm really not too worried. I guess like our opponent can use Magical Swap and play around Spell Tag, which could be kind of annoying. But at the same time, whenever we promote this other Weezing between turns, this Lele gets knocked out, the Oranguru gets knocked out. And then we're just one prize away from winning, so I think we're honestly in a good spot to win, even if our opponent goes for the Magical Swap here. And we're going to see a retreat. I'm actually okay with that. I think that might even be a potential misplay from our opponent, because now we can activate... we can activate Spell Tag. Oh, and we just get the concession, so I think maybe our opponent forgot about the Spell Tag and what that would do between turns, so... I don't know, but like I said, in my experience, guys, whoever takes the first knockout in that matchup usually wins, and it also depends on if they have the mute. But anyways, we're going to do one more game and see if we can continue this streak of winning with Weezing here. So I'm going to start Tapu Koko, definitely our best starter. Also start DCE in hand, which is definitely really nice, so we can get down some early spreading with Koko, which is kind of ideally what you want. And I'm just going to click done. Our opponent has some Pikarom sleeve, so if this is Pikarom or even Zapdos, this should be a pretty decent matchup for Weezing. Like especially Zapdos, where they play like just a bunch of really low HP basics that Detention Gas can just obliterate. Alright, so we are going to see a Zapdos. Here we'll Mysterious Treasure. We'll get rid of the Counter Catcher, I think. I kind of want to keep the Larvitar just in case this is like a more Pikarom oriented deck. Here we're going to get a Coughing. We can... We'll get down Larvitar. I'm just trying to think, do we attach anywhere? So in case of a knockout, we could attach to Koko. I might even put the energy on Larvitar and just like bank on the fact that this could be Pikarom. It's a little bit of a greedy play. Probably better, it's better on a Koko, but I didn't want, if this is like a Zapdos deck, for them to be like Guzma Electropower, the Koko with energy. So rather than, if anything, knock out a Larvitar and leave our spreaders alive. And unfortunately, this Let Loose gave us nothing good at all. We played down our hand as much as we could, and I think we did all the right things. Just sometimes the old Let Loose does you like that, unfortunately. But your opponent's going to go for an Ultra Ball, and we're seeing some Order Pads, so this is going to be Pikarom, I would imagine. And hey, we're going to see another Marshadow. So if they can bail us out of this hand, that would be appreciated. Alrighty, and this hand is substantially better than the last one. Here we're going to see Eevee come down as well, so maybe this is more of like the Lightning Box. But if they're playing Order Pad, that makes me think it's Pikarom. I don't know. So here we're just going to see an attack from 10 from our opponent. That's fine by me. And what do we do? We definitely attack with Koko this turn. Just trying to think where to be attached. Does the 10 damage matter? I don't really think it does, though. Okay, nice. So we do get a Weezing, which is good. Unfortunately, we don't have another coughing yet, but it's okay. Tapu Koko is actually a pretty good attacker against Zapdos, hits for weakness, so this is actually better than Detention Gas in this particular situation, too. So let's see what our opponent's going to have. But like I said, I feel pretty good. As long as we just draw kind of average way, we should be able to make quick work of this. So they are going to play Jolteon GX. That could be slightly annoying just because the ability will prevent damage done to it on their next turn if they do use that. But at the same time, we're a spread deck, so we can still hit other stuff on the bench, which is really awesome, actually. So we're going to see a Volkner grabbing a Lightning and an Ultra Ball. We'll have to see what they're going to get. Maybe a Koko Prism. That could be an option if they want to kind of go that route. Okay, yep, so looks like they're trying to go for the Jolteon play and take a knockout on our Koko this turn. And did they have a switching card to go with it? Okay, they do have Tapu Koko GX. That kind of works too. So they have enough energy in play. Now they can use Sky High Claws, take a knockout on us. Alrighty, that is fine with me. So here we're going to promote the Weezing. That way our opponent can get some additional ticks of damage in between turns here. And I guess we'll Pokegear. We do have Guzma. We're just going to fail it, I think. We're going to get down a spell tag just to burn another card. And nice, we do hit Coughing. That's definitely what we want to see here. Just trying to think, do we put down the third spell tag? I don't know if our opponent's playing Field Blower. But every once in a while, some of these Pikarom and like Lightning decks do play one, so I might just leave it for the moment. So we're going to go for the Detention Gas. Our opponent's board is starting to get a little bit, you know, tattered and torn here. So even if they take a knockout on us, really don't care too much, just because we have another Weezing ready to go, we have another Spell Tag, Energy, like even if we don't have a supporter, we have enough just to kind of live off the board for the moment. And Jolteon's actually starting to get in range of Larvitar. Actually, I think it is exactly in range here. Because Larvitar can hit for 160, Jolteon has 200 HP, I believe, and it has 40 on it already, so we can even take a knockout there if we choose to. And that's one thing I actually do kind of like about Larvitar here. It's always kind of threatening a knockout, so if your opponent ever Guzmas it up, guess what? They're still not knocking out your spreaders, which is kind of nice, so kind of forces them to make awkward lines of play at certain points. So here we do have the spell tag. I'm trying to think. We're going to get down one there. I guess maybe even just put it on Koko and Zeraora. I definitely want one on Zeraora, that way Weezing can start stacking additional damage on it. Zapdos actually gets knocked out by a Detention Gas and another spread attack, so we probably don't need one there. So maybe just put it on the active could be good. That or the Zeraora seems fine to me. Either one I think will be just fine. So maybe just put it there, that way Larvitar can hit for 160 against it, so that would actually be pretty much perfect. Alright, so fortunately we don't have a Weezing to promote just yet, so we're just going to promote the Koko here. And we do hit Guzma, but here we're going to go for a Nest Ball, going to go for a Coughing. We could even go for the Lele, but no need. I kind of want to save Lele for whenever we need it. So here we'll throw down another Spell Tag, triple Acceleration Energy, and just go for a Cynthia. And we hit Shrine too, so yeah, we're in a good spot. Even though we don't have a draw supporter for next turn, I think our board and our hand is going to be plenty good enough to carry us through this next turn. So here we're going to spread again. Now we can knock out the Marshadow, and then the Detention Gas should knock out the Zapdos as well. Alrighty. So, and then if our opponent does take a knockout on their turn, which they probably will, then our counter energies are still live as well, which is pretty cool. But they do play Acerola. That's pretty annoying. And I believe our Mr. Mime is prized this game, so we couldn't have even got that if we wanted to. But you know what? We still have, like, we still have our win condition on board. Just knocking out this Zeraora and Jolteon is perfectly reasonable. All we have to do is use Larvitar, stretch your Larvitar back, use it again. Or we can just go the slow route and I think just keep spreading and we'll honestly be fine. So your opponent is going to go for the GX attack. That is perfectly fine by me. Just because we have Guzma, we can play around it and just take a knockout on Zeraora this turn. And then next turn, Jolteon's just going to be like, I think too battered at this point to really do much else. Alrighty, so yeah, we definitely just trying to think if we do anything beyond the Guzma. That's fine. I mean, I think we still probably evolve here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I think we can just evolve. I kind of wouldn't mind going for a treasure this turn just to get rid of a shrine and maybe thin a Lele or a coughing out of deck. So that seems good. We can do that. Yeah, because our counter energy is going to deactivate on this next turn anyways, so Lele probably not too good of a card right now. So here we're going to take another knockout, get counter catcher and DCE. Okay. So yet again, no supporters, but we can still live off the field that we have at this point. And I really don't know what our opponent can do. They're just a Guzma away or like a couple of spreads away just from losing at this point. So even if they go for the Zapdos, really not too worried. So if they have another Acerola, that could be bad. Like, granted, most of these types of decks only play one, so I think we're going to be in the clear. Or unless they play something really wacky like Super Scoop Ups, that would also be really bad. But even if they do that, I think we can still win just like picking off this Zapdos and Jirachi as well. Alright, so our opponent is going to knock out Larvitar, fine by me, and then we can just promote, yeah, I guess we just promote the Weezing, that way Detention Gas activates here. So let's see, and we do hit a Cynthia. So do we go for it? Because, I mean, we have like everything we need in our hand, really. I mean, if we do go for it, I mean, we could find Stretcher to get Larvitar back, or just find Guzma to bring up Jolteon. But yeah, I think this is fine too, because we have Counter Catcher as well. So no matter what, we can just win with what we have in our hand here. We can just... yeah, and we have the Spell Tag as well, so we can just pick off Jolteon that way. Your opponent's going to go for Koko. And that's fine. Do you have an Acerola or a Field Blower? Because you're going to be in bad shape if you don't have those. Field Blower can get rid of Spell Tag, but oh, just a Sky High Claw, so we should just win this one. Thanks to the Spell Tag there, we can pick off that Jolteon. And sure, we'll throw one on Jirachi as well. And here you can see, you know, even though our opponents get kind of close in some of these like lightning decks, I always feel really confident we can always close out the game against these types of decks. That is one thing I do really like about this Weezing deck. Really good against a lot of these big basic decks like your Zapdos decks, Reshizard, etc. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Weezing. Definitely kind of a cool card. Much better, like I said, than I originally thought. Been having a lot of fun with this deck. But as usual, if you guys can, feel free to like and subscribe, and consider supporting this channel by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/rarecandytcg, or by picking up some merch from our online store, rarecandytcg.com. It would mean a lot. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.